Well, hello, everybody. We are happy to have you join us today for a special conversation with Renee Clark. Welcome, Renee.
Thank you, Brandall. It's so good to be here. Thanks for
Oh,
inviting me.
absolutely, absolutely. We're looking forward to a conversation today, and I know that our viewers are going to be excited to hear all the thoughts on your background and your work in Atlanta and your work upcoming with us. But before we start, I want to start with just a brief introduction. Renee is a native of Atlanta, Georgia, and she is a proud graduate of L.J. Price High School, which is now a middle school here in Atlanta. She went on to study composition at the Berklee College of Music in Boston and spent a number of years performing overseas through a program for the United States Defense Department. Renee was involved with the start of the highly regarded Youth Ensemble of Atlanta, also known as YEA, in the early 90s, and she has become known as one of our top musical directors here in Atlanta, winning the Suzi Bass Awards for her musical direction of Avenue Q at Horizon Theater in 2011, Big River at Theatrical Outfit in 2009, and most recently winning the 2019 Suzi Bass Award for her musical direction of Five Guys Named Mo at Theatrical Outfit. All right. Well, let's dive into our conversation. To start, Renee, can you begin by just telling us a bit about what originally attracted you to the arts, and was there a defining moment that when you knew that you wanted to become an artist?
Well, I'm a PK. I'm a preacher's kid, and I grew up singing on long rides in the back seat with my sisters, my father taking the lead and driving. And so music had just always been rich in my life, as my father's side of the family were very religious people, and my mother's side of the family were equally musical, but they were more like blues kind of moonshine drinkers. And so
Mm,
I just had a wealth of there was Baptist music on one side, Methodist music on the other side. But I was more than likely in high school. I have had wonderful music teachers. Um, Mr. Ronald Hampton was my band teacher when I was in high school, and he pushed me towards jazz. I had no idea anything about jazz. I ended up being the first Black female jazz student chosen for the All-State Jazz Band.
oh wow.
And from there, he kind of guided me into going to Berklee College of Music, and I was just a church girl.
Mhm.
And when I got back to Atlanta, somebody opened up the door and showed me theater, which I had had no exposure to growing up.
Uh,
And it just became my first love in all of the arts of being able to tell these very strong stories and put music to it. And it is my, to this day, musical theater is my favorite, along with I play in church, I've played with pop bands, I've done solo career, I've done country music, I've done disco, but theater is where my heart lies.
yeah.
Yes. Hmm.
Oh, I love that. So it sounds as if there were mentors and there were people who sort of guided you into this. Even and you, in a way, you just sort of followed the opportunities as they came to you.
It absolutely. I often think of it like Forrest Gump and the feather that's kind
Yeah,
of floating.
yeah.
I like. I wish. I mean, some people wake up in life and they know what they want to do,
Hmm.
and it's great to know what you want to do if you know that exists.
Yeah.
But I had no idea. My biology teacher in high school took me to see Stephanie Mills at the Fox Theater. It was the first time I had ever seen theater before. We did not have a theater program at our high school, and I just didn't know.
Yeah.
So my whole life is always, God, I thank you for giving me blessings that I don't even know how to ask you for.
Mm-hmm.
When you don't know it exists, you just
Yeah. You don't see yourself in that. Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
you've spoken a bit about the variety of the productions that you've worked on. So I'd love to hear from you. What attracts you to a script, or what is a good script to you? And then also, can you tell us a bit about what drew you to Marie and Rosetta?
What draws me to the shows that I do in Atlanta is an invitation from the artistic director.
Mhm.
Okay.
That helps, right? And for our viewers who may not know, I forgot to mention it in Renee's introduction that we are very happy to have Renee as the musical director for our production of Marie and Rosetta later this year. So that's why I'm asking Renee also specifically about Marie and Rosetta. Very excited to have Renee for Marie and Rosetta.
Yeah, I mean, I don't often get a chance to come in and lay a script down on the table and say, hey, I want to do this one. This is a really good one every once in a while. But mostly I'm invited
Mhm.
and it's, it's already been decided. And um, I usually take the jump. But with Marie and Rosetta, uh, I I did a show some years ago, Mahalia, and in my research on Mahalia, but I had heard of Rosetta when I was a little girl, just being because she wasn't churchy enough.
Mhm.
So, she kind of got shunned out of us church people. But in watching Rosetta Tharpe, sh- di- we have to remember it's so easy for us to forget uh, our rich wealth of
Mhm.
history in
Mhm.
our community. And it's just very important for us to know who Rosetta Tharpe was, how she played her guitar. You know, I'm a female music director. I feel like I live in a man's world.
Mhm.
And to look at Rosetta play a guitar the way she plays a guitar, she's not strumming like the 70s hippies and I'm sitting here and I'm singing like songs of love and I'm just strumming my guitar. This woman is working.
Mhm.
She's working. She laid the foundation for some of the hardest working artists that you see, like Little Richard.
Yeah.
Little Richard said this is one of his favorite singers. And I was listening to some of the way her melodic phrasing, and you can hear Little Richard in it. You can just hear that, and this, I know you remember the scene in What's Love Got to Do with It when Ike turns around and tells Anime, sing hard,
Yeah.
Anime.
Yeah.
That's like we kind of like we got used to our microphones and we kind of lay back and everything is really relaxed and everybody's just singing a song. And then you had an era of musicians that were working like their lives depended on it,
Mhm.
and which was prior to Rosetta. When you listen to Rosetta, you can hear Louis Armstrong.
Mhm.
You can just hear her voice sounds like a trumpet and it's just cutting through, and she's strong and she's bold.
Yeah.
And so sort of the musical style of the jazz era, where the singer was kind of like the background, the instruments were in the forefront. So sometimes the introduction or the body of the song would go on for minutes before the vocalist would sing. Rosetta Steele's in that format because she plays her guitar not as an accompanying instrument. She plays her guitar as if it is as important as her voice.
Mhm. Mhm.
And yeah, we cannot forget. And
Yeah.
Marie, let's not leave her out.
Yeah.
Her beautiful contralto voice, which we often, we like to hear people sing high, but the rich velvet coffee tones of her timbre in her voice is just luscious. And boy, are we fortunate to have found two artists that are able to pull both of them off. Maisha McQueen
Mhm.
playing Rosetta Tharpe. She's going to wear it out. And
Absolutely.
India Tyree with that lush
Uh,
alto voice that she has. It's going to be
yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to, yeah, I can't wait. And I know our audience is already, was already very much looking forward to it. Well, I love hearing you talk about, you know, um, your process as a musical director, but can you also talk about the standards that you expect from the artists that you work with? Because as a musical director, your role involves getting the artists, up and ready for the show, to present something that's spectacular. What is the standard? Are there certain qualities that you demand from your fellow artists?
Well, uh, thank you for asking that. I don't demand it, but I expect it. And I feel, especially um, being African American, I feel like it's our duty to come
Mhm.
in at 150%.
Mhm.
Um, I feel like it's a duty. It's not, if I think that I have to pound on an actor, then I don't want to work with them,
Mm.
because I want it to be just as important to them as it is to me. It's what our legacy that we're leaving behind, because we've had great people like Rosetta Tharpe. I mean, I don't think anybody was beating her down saying, well, I mean, she started singing when she was 4 and she
Yeah.
was performing at, such an early age, but
Yeah.
what she brings to the stage, I can't see somebody making her do that. I
Hmm.
feel like that's coming from within.
Yeah.
And I just feel like we have a duty. We just have a duty to not lose what African American people bring. And I'm not, you know, being biased or anything, but we have to keep that standard. And these 2 women I trust, because I've worked with people that are very, very, very talented, but their work ethic can can falter, and it's sad,
Yeah.
because they're good. And then I've worked with some people who are less talented, but their work ethic is so strong, and how much time they're going to put into it, how much work, how much studying, how much research. And they're usually, and when I can find an actor that has that kind of talent and that type of work ethic, that's like the perfect storm. And everybody in the room wants the same thing. We all want the best show. That's I can't imagine working this hard for so little. I'm just kidding, just kidding. Uh, but the payoff is the show. The
Yeah.
payoff is we get to show the world our art.
Yeah.
And that's the difference between an artist and sometimes a celebrity. Um, and once again, the perfect storm of, okay, so you're a celebrity, but you're an artist too, because you really want to bring that to the table, that creativeness that is, comes from God through us. And when we can't do that, it's just a really sad day.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Absolutely. Well, I'd like to go back a bit to the early '90s and speak a bit about your broader community work. In the early '90s, you were involved with helping Freddie Hendrix to start his Youth Ensemble of Atlanta. For those of our viewers who may not know, YEA is Youth Ensemble Atlanta, is as an African American youth theater company that was founded in 1990 and gave us a number of great artists who have gone on to great success in theater and film, including Kenan Thompson of Saturday Night Live. I'm a big fan of his work. So for Renee, I just like to know why was YEA important to you, and do you today in the Metro Atlanta area have enough access to the arts?
Um, Freddie had this vision of helping the youth. That was a simple request. I was invited. He was like, Renee, come help me do this. And he had already started, and I jumped on board with him. And wow, what a wild journey, because we weren't funded. And I remember totaling our money together to see how many pieces of chicken we could buy and split between he, myself, and Charles Bullock. And uh, we I don't know where all of the teenagers came from. I showed up one day at rehearsal, and we were in it. We were in the middle of it. We were in the middle of making it happen, and we had these really strong ethics of work hard, just come in and do the best you can. And I was so excited. Last summer, I was in New York to see a couple of shows, and there was YEA, and there was YEA, and there was YEA, and they were all over Broadway. And I was like, yeah, there our babies are. Yeah, yeah. And what a legacy. That's what I mean. You don't get to Broadway by being lazy.
Yeah.
No matter what we did, if they didn't take it, we could throw the ball at a group of youth. If they didn't take it, but they took it and they ran with it. And I'm still working with YEA on and off to this day. In fact, I'm getting ready. I just did a project last October called Lured, about the sex trafficking. and
Mm.
what YA has always done. It's one of the few theater companies that has stuck with um, topics that are important in our communities.
Mhm.
um, Domestic violence, endangered, our kids that are endangered by drive-by shootings, sex trafficking. And
Mhm.
they've stayed true to that this entire time. And of course, Freddie Hendricks was the founder, and Debbie Barber is now the artistic director. But I think it's so important that our children have an area where we. And I love Disney.
You
I
do.
love me some Aladdin, but I still think that we have to bring the issues and have a place where we can present them in a palatable way, and then allow there to be discussion.
I completely agree with you, and of course, with everything going on right now, I think many are thinking right now about the recent death of George Floyd, an African American man who was shamelessly murdered by a cop in Minnesota. Um, with this causing leaders in the Atlanta arts community to question the representation of Blacks on our stages. There was also a New York Times article released in March of this year stating that Atlanta is comprised of 54% of people of color, yet only 12% are represented on our theatrical stages. And in the vein of this, as we talk about the purpose of theater to serve the community, such as the purpose of YA. What are your thoughts on the representation of Blacks on Atlanta stages? And perhaps how it may have changed since the founding of YA, or how it may not have, or compared to today?
Uh, um, there have been some directors that really tried really hard to uh, cast shows, you know, that included diversity. Um, Others have not. It's I think it's been really challenging for shows to be cast when they say blind casting, or casting an African American person in a role that was originally written for a white person, and not considering what that means. I think that's very difficult. And I've been bringing that up to artistic directors for a while. Some people are sensitive to it, others are not. But it's very important that if I cast you in a role, I may not be able to ask you to do things as an African American that I could ask a white person to do, because it's just different.
Mhm.
As far as the representation on the stage, I feel like there should be more diversity. I also understand oh, I understand the challenges in theater in general. Um, but for a season and those numbers to come out and to be brought out by the Times, 54%, and we're only doing, like the show for Black History Month, and then we're going to try to cast you in a couple of other white shows. I think it is time for our community to look inside and ask why.
Yeah.
Why? And if your answer is because I'm supporting my funders, maybe maybe you should think about that. I had an artistic director last week call me, and I'm so grateful for her. I'm not going to call her name, but she said, Renee, I'm calling to apologize. I know why I started my theater company, and I've moved away. I started my theater company because I wanted a place to talk about issues and challenge people in the way they think, and it has just turned into entertainment. And I'm just so sorry. So, if this is a time that makes us all go inside and say, why? Why am I only doing one Black show? Or why do I never do any Asian show or anything about, why?
Yeah.
Why are those other stories important?
Yeah.
Or mhm.
Is it time for us to dig deeper and question?
We've got to dig deeper. We've got to dig. If there's nothing else gonna happen right now, is that everybody's got to go deep
Hmm.
and try to get a understanding on where their heart is and and why they're making the decisions that they're making.
Absolutely.
Because yeah, mhm.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing your thoughts on that. And especially with your experience in this community, I think that many will will have a high regard for your opinion on that. So thank
And
you.
I want to say one more thing too before we get off of this, Brandel. Um, because I have been criticized for working a lot in white theater.
Mm,
And I will say that in my early days, when I first started getting a white show, I thought I had arrived. I
mm,
was like, oh, yeah, I got an all white cast, and here I am. And and over the years, we all get a chance to grow up and see things differently. I have taken a lot of pain in sometimes I've had an all white band that they wouldn't listen to me. They just
mm,
wouldn't. They wouldn't play for me.
mm,
I've had artistic directors tell me to give my my notes to a white artist, to a white cast member, to the white director, and let the white director give that cast member notes, just like I was in the night. I was like in the '60s or something.
wow.
And that is why it is so important that everything I put out has to be amazing. Because if I'm going to take that knee on my neck,
Mm,
it has to mean something. That is why I don't want to work, and I might be getting emotional. That is why I don't want to work with people that don't want the same thing that I want. Because we have to stand up and say, this is who we are, this is what we can do. And it's they say, oh, Negroes can just sing and act, they just get up and sing and dance. I don't care. If we sing and dance and that's what we do, then that's what we do, and we better do it really, really, really good. And to the point where they'll never forget that
yeah,
we passed this way.
yeah.
Hmm.
Well, and speaking about your experiences in white theaters, do you feel that Black theaters or theaters that focus primarily or completely on Black stories have a special, provide a special space for Black artists? And do you feel that we have a a unique responsibility in our communities?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I came through the days of Just Us and Jumundi.
Mm,
In fact, Jumundi was the first theater company that I worked for, and my God, what Atlanta without True Colors? What could we do?
mm,
How how could that be? How could that be if we did not have a True Colors in the city of Atlanta, Georgia? You, this is all we got, and so it's so important. Um, you know, everything we do is just important. We're not just making money. We're shaping people. We are, we're encouraging people. We're reminding people of where they came from, who to tell our stories. Why are we begging other people to tell our stories?
mm, yeah,
You know, and hopefully there will be more and more uh, uh, African American theater companies that pop up to say, okay, we'll tell our own stories. It's
yeah,
okay. I mean, we all in the when all the stores and everything opened up and everything disappeared, as in the black the football softball league and the black this and the black that, and we all ran over to the promised land. We were
mm,
just so happy to and I think people to this day are still feeling like it's just better on the other side. It's just a different shade of green, but our necessity is to make sure the history, the legacies of Rosetta Tharpe and Marie Knight stay alive. That's important. I don't need to go to any large theater company and say, please tell this story. we can keep these things alive. Yes, we can.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And right now, I'd like to jump ahead to your time after Berkeley College. When you toured, you spent approximately 12 years touring overseas with the Defense Department. And I just, many of our artists, I would imagine, haven't had the experience to travel broadly overseas as an artist. Um, Tell us a bit about what the value was to you as an artist to travel and perform overseas for such an extended period of time. And what are perhaps a few of your unique experiences that you had along the way?
Well, the first tour was a Department of Defense tour, where we were mainly on United States bases and performing for troops.
Mhm.
And I was young. I was really young, and we got a chance to go to these remote places where the troops didn't know where they were.
Mm.
We didn't know where we were. The only person that knew was the bus driver. And we would get to this on this tundra where there's nothing except 3 or 4 tents. And we would unpack our equipment in the middle of, where were we, in Scotland, and pull out our instruments and go in and give an hour and a half concert, pack it back up, and they would take us back to the hotel.
Oh, wow.
And it was
That's
just, it was
exciting.
so amazing. And the second tour was a theater tour,
Mhm.
and Jumanji was invited to perform in several festivals overseas. And I just thought, I want to come back here and live. This is the one love. This is where all the people, the white people and the black people and the yellow people, we were all just all there, and it was just all beautiful. And so after that, my career started as a solo artist
Mhm.
um, in the private sector, me just playing piano and singing. And for 12 years, I think I cannot tell you the number of countries that I went to. Um, Sweden, Denmark, Norway, Germany, Holland, Jordan, Morocco, England. Um, it was just amazing. And because I was traveling by myself, and this was not like concerts where you're in and out, where you're there one night, you pack up and you're gone the next day. I was literally staying in each city for about a month of the
Oh, wow.
time.
Okay.
So just completely being immersed into this culture and understanding that you know what, we're almost just alike with the little few things we all want love.
Mm.
We all, want respect. We all want to give the world what we have on the inside. And it was just really, it just opened my mind. Other beautiful things was sometimes I traveled where people that I had studied all my life, like Josephine Baker, I'm
Mhm. Yeah.
performing on the stage where Josephine Baker was. And it was like, wow, I'm
Uh,
here now. And I remember doing a cruise ship, and I was coming off, and they were saying, Ike Turner's coming on next week. He'll be here. I was like,
okay.
really? And it's just like, well, okay. But yeah, little girl from Southwest Atlanta, Slater and Price High School. Here I am in Europe, just bright eyed, just like that feather again. Like, wow, how did I get here? But okay.
Do you feel that it informed your work going on, moving after that time overseas?
Absolutely. Because I had several experiences with different types of music that just blew me away. Like the first time that I heard opera that blew me away was in Europe. That not the first time I heard opera, but the first time I heard opera that blew me away.
Mhm.
I felt like I was having a holy experience. I felt like I wanted to jump up and shout and do a holy dance.
Mm.
And then I saw this concert in Austria, and the exact same experience happened. And I was like, I get it. It's not the music, it's not the ink on the paper, it's when it is aligned with the heart and
Mm,
the love and the courage to just put it all on, put it out there. It's that informed, that is, I get that. I get that. And that has allowed me to play all the different types of music that I music direct, because I know it's beyond the genre.
mm,
It's all connected at the root. And when we find the heart in the music, we have found the music.
mm. Oh, I love that. I love that. Well, Renee, at this point in your career, you have won multiple honors, including multiple Suzi Bass Awards, the most distinguished award for theater in our state. What does it mean to you? Of course, most recently winning the Suzi Bass Award for your musical direction of Five Guys Named Mo in 2019. Uh, Tell us a bit about what it means to you to be recognized in this way for your work.
That's a hard one, Brandell. That's hard. That's hard because I don't put a lot of stake into it,
Oh, really?
because
Okay.
I forget, because I'm always just on to the next. Because what's way I'm happy if by me winning, there's another African American little girl or a little girl
Hmm. Yeah.
that says, I can do that, then that makes me happy. If that put me on a platform for somebody else to be inspired, then that was worth it. But the award itself, I'm happy. I'm always grateful. Every year I want to win them all.
Feels
But
good to win.
it does, absolutely. But it's so many factors that go into the show itself. Like, I had six of the best singers it in Five Guys Named Mo. I couldn't have done that with somebody else.
Mm,
I mean, the talent was in the room. My director, Tom Jones, is crazy, fierce, theatrical outfit that just says, leave them alone, let them do what they want to do. I mean, when all the elements are there, when I won for Avenue Q,
mm,
I had the best people in the room.
yeah.
It was crazy. So I can't really take the credit for, because I'm a good music director when I don't win. You
Mm,
know,
yeah.
when I ended up with 5, 6 people in the room and none of them could hold a tune, I'm just
You're still
I'm,
doing your work.
I'm the same music director that day as well. So it's just like, okay, but um, it's always good to win, but I know it's not just. I used to go to. I also worked at a high school here in the city, Tri Cities, and we would take our choirs to the festival. And I would say to the choral teacher, Lori Christian, I would say, it's really good that you have all three of your choirs here. You have your beginners and your intermediates and your advanced, and it's the same teacher, it's the same school, it's the same side of town, and one group sounds like they just started singing last week, and the other group can go out and sing with the Atlanta Master Chorale at Emory and stand neck to neck with them.
Wow.
So what? So how? Why?
Yeah. Yeah. That exposure is everything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, Renee, I'd like to know for during this time of the worldwide pandemic, of course, coronavirus, and with many theaters and cultural institutions that have had to put their work on pause, and some organizations have closed their doors indefinitely at this point. I'd like to know, how do you, as an artist, stay inspired during this time? What do you have a process, or is there what do you do to stay connected to yourself as an artist?
Oh my goodness! It has not been one dull day.
Really?
It has
Tell
not
us
been
your secret.
because there's so much. I mean, there's so much to study. There's so much to practice. I started off doing these virtual choirs. When I first came home from college, I did an intern program at a recording studio. So I have very limited recording skills.
Mm-hmm.
So, but as far as like, I have learned so much in 2.5 months of, we were just joking about how many people are becoming these amazing technicians with our Zoom calls,
Yeah.
and we have become experts with our laptops. And I've been doing uh, tracks for Miss Renee is doing beats.
I love it.
I'm sending beats to people, and I get to study. That's what I love more, because when you just go from show to show to show to show to show to show, you don't really get a chance to just stop. But you know, when I was in Europe, I used to do this song. When I was a little bitty baby, my mama used to rock me in a cradle. More cotton fields back home. You ever heard that? You're too young for that, aren't you? Aren't
It,
you?
it sounds familiar. I mean, I am a Southern boy. I think it sounds familiar.
And up until about 3 or 4 years ago, I was doing a show and I had to studying, and I ran into the origins of all of these songs that I always gave all the credit to, that it was a country song. And so if it's a country song, that means the origins are probably not African American.
Mhm.
And it was Johnny Cash and Creedence Clearwater Revival, and Janet Janis Joplin. And I took them all the way back to this collection, and Leadbelly, guitarist from the early 1900s,
Mhm.
was the composer. And I was like, really? And so I can sit for hours just digging at stuff. And, I can go the opposite way as well. Everything doesn't necessarily have to be African American, but that just digging, because that gives me from what I thought I had nothing to do with as a person. I'm listening to this song, I'm seeing it on a movie, and it's been sang by a group of white cowboys,
Mhm.
and they all got on a cowboy hat, and I'm thinking it's just a white cowboy song. And that's fine, because I love all music.
Yeah.
But then to dig a little deeper and find out that this was an old brother
Mhm. Yeah.
who wrote it and sang it just like that.
Yeah.
And that's part of our history. That's
Yeah.
part of our wealth. I mean, we're so rich.
Yeah. There's
And
so much
and
more to know. Yeah.
it's so much more to know. And the more we get these stories out, that's why theater is so important. It's so important to just not. And so your question, how am I keeping myself busy during COVID? Oh my God, that's not enough hours on the day.
Not enough hours.
No,
Yeah.
no,
I,
yeah.
I think there may, I've been hearing from different artists, and of course, for artists who are in between projects, or not able to work at this time, that's challenging. But I've also heard from a number of artists who are saying that, in a way, it's the gift of this time is the chance to pause, and, as you were saying, sort of dig into the material that does inspire you, or to discover new material, or to become more familiar with technology to help them better connect and uh, produce their art. So it's
Hmm.
an interesting time for sure. But
Yeah.
before we close, Renee, I do have a few rapid questions, which are sort of like get to know you questions. They're
Okay.
sort of fun. So I'll just start serving these up to you.
Okay.
What is your favorite word?
Oh, what's my favorite work?
Your favorite word?
My favorite word.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Wow. Okay. I like wow too. What is your least favorite word?
No.
No. I'm with you on that one. What is your favorite sound?
Wind.
Ah, and your least favorite sound?
Metal.
Mm. If you could do any occupation other than your art, what would it be?
A doctor.
Hmm. What occupation would you least like to do?
A funeral worker.
That sounds a bit depressing. And finally, what inspires you above all else?
God.
Hmm, I love that. Renee, it has been an absolute pleasure.
Oh, thank you so much. This was so good. I really enjoyed this. Thank you
Oh,
so much.
oh, thank you. And to our viewers, stay tuned for more conversations. And definitely look forward to Marie and Rosetta later this year. And check in with us at our website, truecolorstheater.org, and also our social media, Facebook and Instagram, Penny Leon's True Colors Theater. Thank you again, Renee, so
Thank
much.
you.
Yes, thank you to our viewers again. And until next time.